Yo, how we doing, people? It has been a while since I've recorded one of these bad boys. And I thought, you know what? I've got a book that I want to cover with you. And it is Secrets of the Millionaire Mind by Harv Eker. And it is probably, well, it was definitely actually for myself, the best book that I've read on generating wealth from an internal perspective. So I think one of the taglines is mastering the inner world of wealth. It's something along those lines. And I actually have sections here listed on the screen. So if you see my eyes darting around, that'll be why. But you guys know that I don't edit these videos. I think it's better when they're raw, just me speaking. I'm kind of over those flashy edits, the low attention span edits that really distract people. However, reading things might actually throw me off, because usually when I'm just coming from the top of the dome, I'm just improvising as I go. You can actually flow better when you have to read and absorb information and then explain it. It can start to freeze you up. So excuse me if I stumble over words at times. But the first section of this is your money blueprint. And your money blueprint is shaped by childhood conditioning. So as you're brought up, the family that you're around, their beliefs when it comes to wealth, their capability when it comes to generating income will be instilled into you, much like many of your other attributes. That's the thing. And it says here, obviously, your beliefs about money are often inherited from your parents, your environment, and your early experiences. And how it breaks it down is your thoughts lead to your feelings then lead to your actions, and your actions are what will determine your results. But it all stems back to your thoughts. So if you're raised in a poor household, if you're raised in an environment where wealth isn't abundant, then you are going to deem it impossible for yourself to acquire that amount of wealth. And you can see that happen in a lot of people's lives, even if you're not necessarily from a poor household, if you're from a middle class, working class. I know the class system's a bit dated, but if we're just picturing a level of income there, it's very unlikely that somebody is going to believe it possible to achieve earning the wealth to have a supercar, or achieve earning the wealth to buy yourself an incredible house, buy yourself a mansion, get yourself to that level, as you don't know anyone around you in your local area, in your own family tree, that has been able to do that. So the gap between you being capable of it seems far, far larger for yourself compared to somebody that has been brought up with that abundant mentality and that abundance mindset. And a lot of people will say, well, that's just because they're going to be given wealth from people before them. They're just in a more privileged position. But fundamentally, that is an externalization, as that may be the case. That may be true that, yes, if they're brought up in a wealthier household, money will be passed down and they will have advantages. However, the internal belief, regardless, needs to serve you. So it doesn't benefit you to internally believe that you are not capable of also achieving that level of wealth without requiring that help from others. You need to wholeheartedly believe that you are solely capable of getting to that level of wealth by yourself. You don't necessarily need anyone to hand it you on a silver spoon. That's the thing. And the next part here is just going to be a breakdown of statements, essentially, that I'm going to analyze and dissect as we work through them and share my opinion on them, essentially. So number one is, rich people believe I create my life. Poor people believe life happens to me. And that diverts immediately back to that point I've just covered in terms of externalizing the problems that come into your life, or the struggles, or the reason as to why you can't get to somewhere or achieve something that somebody else has. They were able to do it because of XYZ. Not, I am just as capable as them. and I have the capability to become resourceful enough to also get the same result, regardless of external circumstance. What mindset there do you believe would serve you better? It's the latter. And when poor people believe life happens to me, that is every single day you hear somebody complaining because of the government they live in, the country they live in, the circumstance they're in, all of these variables that, granted, some of them you might not have been able to control. They are out of your hands. They are essentially random chance. But you need to ensure that you do take full authority and control over every single aspect of your life that you can in order to improve your situation. If you just assume that life is going to happen to you and that you don't create your life, you are going to be permanently shackled by that mentality. Number 2, rich people play the money game to win. Poor people play not to lose. And a fundamental of this is a lot of poor people essentially say, well, you've got to save your money. You've got to play it safe. You've got to go into a 9-to-5, a steady job, work your way up from the bottom, stay to a secure company, get a mortgage early when the housing market's here, as that's going to be an appreciating asset, etc. Build your pension. All of these safety net devices that we have come up with is what poor people would believe is the way to live. But at this point, due to the wealth of knowledge in the internet, we all know that following that path is very unlikely to get you to abundant wealth or to level up your life in a very great way. Because if that was the case, then everyone you knew who does that would have the life of their dreams. They don't. The vast majority of people that work 9-to-5, save up their pension and look to the future by saving, they live very average lives. And if you want to live an average life, that is totally okay. But if you're somebody that wants to live a life that they deem to be greater, that they deem to be a life of pure accomplishment, then you have to play the game to win. And one of the key steps in that is by taking risks, investing into yourself, pushing the boundaries. The only way you can do that is by not playing not to lose, taking that risk and breaking out of that cycle, essentially. Number 3, rich people are committed to being rich. Poor people want to be rich. Of course, very simple explanation of that is rich people dedicate their lives to following a path that is, of course, going to take hard work and consistency, but will lead them to vast wealth. Poor people want to be rich. They don't believe that they can achieve it themselves, and they certainly don't lay themselves out a clear plan from A to B to get there. That's the thing. They just dream about it. And a dream stays a dream without a plan. That's the only way to turn it into a reality. Rich people think big, poor people think small. Rich people focus on opportunities, poor people focus on obstacles. So a really good way of thinking about this is when I first was going to invest into myself. So the very first time I invested into myself was actually when I wanted to start my own online coaching business. So I invested £3,000 into that first venture. And I remember when I very first did that, even people close to me were like, whoa, dude, that's a lot of money to invest into something like this. Is that even a real thing? Couldn't you just figure out how to do it by yourself? Just doubtful mindset. That is a scarcity mindset. They're beginning to think of the negatives immediately rather than the positives. And you're not going to live a life of abundance unless you live with an abundant mentality. And I actually didn't end up being an online coach. So that £3,000 I invested didn't end up giving me a business. However, it did set stepping stones in motion that then led to me discovering my next career path, which I now am, a high ticket closer. And I then invested another £3,000. So I invested £6,000 last year alone into self-education. And this is online mentorships, online programs that poor people would doubt. Poor people would say £6,000 on that. Dude, I'm just going to watch YouTube. I'm going to do this. I'm going to figure it out by myself. I don't know if that's worth it. And that's the reason why they're never going to expand their horizons, because all they're trying to do is cling on to their money and cling on to their old ways. If your old ways haven't gotten you to the life you want to be living, then something has to change intrinsically. Rich people admire other rich and successful people. Poor people resent them. That's a given. I have never in my life looked at somebody with a flashy car, a nice watch, great clothes, a great house, and thought, oh, that guy's a dickhead. Oh, that guy must be a bad dude to have been able to make that much money. He must have screwed people over. Like all of these negative. You hear about it, like people that throw eggs at sports cars. Do you ever see a rich and successful guy doing that? No. It's always poor brokies that live sad, pathetic lives. And the reason why they're doing that is because they resent the fact that they don't believe they could get to that point. In fact, their mentality is so warped that they believe the only way that person could have reached that point is by external factors that have aided them. Because their self-belief is so low, they don't even believe other people are capable. When there could be this man, this woman that has worked hard by themselves, had nothing, and gotten themselves to that level where they can be driving a supercar. That is possible. It's happened time and time again. But poor people view things in a warped, negative way. Rich and successful people admire people greater than them. And similar to myself, all I ever think is, why can they have that and I can't? There has to be a way. And we're all humans at the end of the day. They're not significantly a better person than I am. There will be a way in which I can figure out how to do what they've done. And if I can do that, then I can get onto their level. That's something to admire. Chase after that. Work to mirror what they've done. Because if you want to live the lives they're living, then follow in their footsteps. It's a simple method. Rich people associate with positive, successful people. Poor people associate with negative or unsuccessful people. Once again, people might externalize this. That's down to circumstance. If you're rich and you have a lot of money, you're going to be in better social circles. You're going to be in better areas, more privileged areas where other people are going to be just as successful, vice versa. And if you're poor, it'll be the same. No, once again, that's an externalization. Usually, the reason why you surround yourself with other negative, unsuccessful people is because subconsciously you are trying to limit yourself, because if you push your boundaries, that's scary. Think about it. Let's use the gym as an example. If you go to train in a gym when you're not the biggest guy, you're not the most muscular, and you walk into a gym where everyone is bodybuilding competitors, they are elite athletes, they are pushing themselves to the limit, you feel like a small fish in a big pond all of a sudden. And it can make you feel insecure. It can go one of two ways. It can motivate you, but it can also make you think, oh, okay, I've realized now, like, I'm actually nowhere near my goals. These people are way, way ahead of me. That doesn't make me feel too good. So then you might decide, you know what? I don't think this gym's for me. I'm going to go to this other public gym where, because I've got a bit of muscle on me, I actually do look bigger and better than most people in here. And that boosts my ego. That makes me feel good. So I'm just going to do this and stay there. That's the reason why you're going to stay stagnant and not push yourself to that level. And it's the reason why subconsciously a lot of people hang around with others that are on a similar wavelength to them, because the moment they try and push the boundaries, it puts them into that fearful mentality of, these people around me are doing better than me. They're working harder than me. They're making more money than me. And that's now making me feel inferior. You've got to break past that and view it from the other side. The more you are around people who are doing better than you, the better. You should be the stupidest, poorest person in the room. That means you're going to be able to learn the most. And that means you're going to be able to mirror what these people around you are doing in order to level up yourself. That's the way in which you need to do things. Stop hanging around with a social circle of people that you don't necessarily want to live their lives. If you look around you and you don't think any of your close friend group or close people you know are living lives that you dream of living, you do need to begin trying to expand your horizons and meeting people that are within that bracket. Rich people are willing to promote themselves and their value. Poor people think negatively about selling and promotion. I mean, everyone has experienced this. I've experienced it firsthand. The moment you start posting stuff on social media, putting yourself out there, I'm sure there are people that would actually be watching this video right now, potentially, and just watching this out of like spite. Like, there's gonna be at least one person that is watching this thinking like, I hate this dude. Like, for no real apparent reason other than the fact of perhaps they hate the fact that I'm confident enough to make a video like this and they wish they were. That's usually where like spite and hatred comes from. It is a projection on the most part of an insecurity within yourself. If you were entirely confident and secure in yourself, you wouldn't care what anyone else was doing. That's the thing. But rich people being willing to promote themselves and their value, it is that crabs in the bucket mentality, which diverts very similarly to the last point. The moment you start reaching out there, posting, putting yourself out there, pushing new boundaries to better yourself, you're climbing out of that bucket. And if you put a bunch of crabs in the same bucket, they're always going to pull the top one back down. So none of them ever make it out, because people don't like to see you escaping what they deem to be the reality that they're stuck in. And that's a good way of viewing things in a sense. Rich people are bigger than their problems. Poor people are smaller than their problems. Rich people are excellent receivers. Poor people are poor receivers. And what that means is essentially rich people are willing to accept being given gifts, accept being given compliments, accept being given help. Whereas poor people usually will be the one that if you're given a compliment and then you try and deflect it or you try and push it away, that in and of itself shows a lack of confidence within yourself. Usually the reason why someone feels awkward when they're given a compliment is because they don't think the compliment's true. They don't think it actually holds any value or any meaning. Like if somebody compliments you on your physique and you've worked really hard in the gym to get to that level, you immediately acknowledge the compliment. You're like, hey, thanks very much, man. Thanks very much, dude. Like, yeah, like I've been working real hard for this. You know, I've been dieting real hard for this. Because in your mind, you know it to be true. But if you, let's say you don't work very hard. Let's say you don't deem yourself as a hard worker and you've kind of just got a bit of good genetics, maybe. And somebody compliments your body or your physique, you kind of brush it off. You're like, oh, like, yeah, like, whatever, dude. You know, like, yeah, this is kind of what I like. It's like, usually that's because you don't personally believe in the compliment that they've told you, and you're more likely to deflect it off because you feel as though it's an embellishment of the truth. Rich people choose to get paid based on results. Poor people choose to get paid based on time. The moment I told people that I make money commission only from my work, the amount of people that said like, whoa, that's like super risky, super stressful. Nah, like that's like, oh, that's dodgy to toy with. Like to me, that was the craziest mentality ever, because I've never been someone that would trade my time directly for money. Like somebody else telling you what an hour of your day is worth and it being, I don't even know what the minimum wage is now, but just something absurd, like 12 to 15 pounds. I don't know, an hour. That is insane. Like I started my own personal training business and I charged £40 an hour, and £40 an hour I had people telling me was super expensive. £40 an hour is ludicrous. I now make like £350 an hour. And I know people that make way more than that. £350 an hour is nothing. So some people I know essentially would place the value of their hour at like £1,000 to £2,000 plus for a 1 hour one-to-one session with them. And the moment you begin to realize this, it starts to heavily diminish the concept of your hour being worth £15. That is an insult in and of itself. So you need to find an avenue, a career path in which you are not trading your time directly for money. You are getting paid based on your results, based on your performance. That will push you to be a better person. That will push you to strive and aim for further success in your career. That's the key. Rich people think both. Poor people think either or. Either you settle down or you go traveling. Either you do this or you do that. Rich people essentially say, I am going to do everything that I want in my life. I am going to have full autonomy. I'm going to make enough money and I'm going to be successful enough to do whatever I please. And that's the mentality that serves you. Far greater than this scarcity mindset of you've got to play it safe. You've got to do this first. Or I don't know whether you should do that if you want to do this. Scarcity, negativity. Rich people focus on their net worth. Poor people focus on their working income. I've been tracking my net worth for the last year. If my net worth isn't increasing month by month by month, I'm failing. Fundamentally failing. If you're not tracking your income and you're an adult, then you need a serious sit down. You need some serious help. That is absurd to me. The only way in which you can ensure you are achieving anything in life is only through a few variables. Number one is your health and fitness. Are you getting fitter? Do you look better? Are you getting stronger year on year on year? No, you're failing. Your wealth. Is your net worth increasing year on year on year? Let's not even say month on month. No, you're failing. Social circle, family, friends, relationships. Are you ensuring that you are keeping up with friends, developing your social skills, expanding your horizons by networking on that front? No, you're failing. What else is there? There's not that many other variables there. If your health is there, your wealth is there, and your social circles are there, that's the only main three things that you need to live a very fulfilled and happy life, essentially. And if you're not ticking all three of these boxes, then what are you doing? What are you tracking in your life to know that you're achieving anything? So if you're not, address those three variables and get to work. Rich people manage their money well. Poor people mismanage their money, of course. Rich people have their money work hard for them. Poor people work hard for their money. Obviously, a fundamental there is you have to have a plan in place to ensure that the income you are making is going to go somewhere that will further serve you. Investments, a business. A business could even class as an investment, to be honest. But I consistently invest in stocks and shares. I just invest in the S&P 500. Just put it in an index fund every single month and then just don't take it out for 20, 30 years. It is genuinely that simple. Like if you want it to be even safer, just pick a global index fund and just put money in it every month. What's going to happen? It's not going to go down unless the world collapses, at which point we've got bigger problems. The S&P 500, I've basically just gambled that tiny bit more on because I think within our lifetime specifically, I just don't see America falling off as the global superpower. That's the reason why I've put my money into that. But that's one of my investments there. I don't have a mortgage, but that's another one. You know, if you invest into property and you get a house, of course, that's just a further asset for yourself to develop. Thirdly, money working for them is a business. You know, establishing yourself, using your money as a form of self-investment to then develop your business and grow it and scale it to a point where it can make you more of a passive income and then your income can expand and grow. Rich people act in spite of fear. Poor people let fear stop them. This is the biggest and most important factor when it comes to success. Fear is fundamentally the only thing that has been holding you back specifically from doing everything you want in life. Think about it. Sit back in your chair right now. Sit back in your chair and think to yourself, right now, I want you to really visualize it. Visualize it. Close your eyes. Close your eyes. Think of what your dream life is. What are you doing for work? Where are you living? What does your partner look like? What does your social circle look like? What are you driving? If it was guaranteed for that to come true, if you took this risk, if you took this step, if it was guaranteed to work out, would you do it? Yes, of course you would. But That's the difficult part. The end result isn't guaranteed. And it is a fear of the unknown. It is a fear of things not working out, of things failing, of things backfiring. That fear is what is stopping you. And until you're able to overcome that fear, you are never going to be able to take the first and essential step that needs to be taken in order for you to ever achieve that life. Just think about it. And until you look within and you acknowledge that the reason as to why you are exactly where you are now is due to fear and nothing else, not an external factor, not your friends, not your family, not your boss, not your dog, like you being scared is the reason why you're here. Acknowledge that. And from there, you are going to be able to improve your life dramatically. And rich people consistently act in spite of that fear. They're not fearless. I'm not saying I'm rich, but people who are striving to be better, they're not fearless. They act in spite of it. They've always got that devil on their shoulder whispering in their ear, what if it doesn't work out? What if it costs you your family? What if it leaves us homeless? What if it does this? But the people that take these large risks, they're the ones that you hear about. They're the ones that make a name for themselves. And it's for good reason. And lastly, rich people constantly learn and grow. Poor people think they already know. If you think that what you're doing is the right path and the right steps, but you are not living the life of your dreams and you are not the person that you truly want to be in the end, then something has to change. And you don't know what you don't know. So it becomes this like dichotomy. It's like the Dunning-Kruger effect, right? Where like the less you know, the greater you think you are at something. And then the more you start to find out about it, the more of an amateur you realize you are. The more you think, oh, hold on a minute. There is this way broader spectrum of things that I didn't even conceive. I didn't even know existed until now. And you really need to humble yourself and understand that you are nowhere near the level that you need to be. And you need to study people who are. And the moment you notice traits in them that you don't have, stop deeming those traits as negative. Stop deeming them as, I don't know why he does that. I don't really like that. I wouldn't want to do that. You have to change. You're the problem if you're not where you want to be. And the moment you realize that you are going to be constantly learning and constantly growing and you're never going to be necessarily right, you're just going to be a little bit closer to being right, but you're never going to be perfect. That's what's going to lead you to far, far greater success. That's what's going to break you out of these limiting beliefs that have been holding you back for so, so long. And there's just some key takeaways here. Mindset is foundational to wealth. Awareness, understanding, and reconditioning your thoughts about money can lead to long-term financial success. And success isn't just about external actions. Internal beliefs shape your financial reality. I've got it wrote on my whiteboard back here. A lack of money is never, ever a problem. A lack of money is merely a symptom of what is going on underneath. Because if you had the internal reasoning, if you pushed through fear and you became resourceful enough to acquire the knowledge that you needed to have a successful career of your choosing, that would be making you the amount of money you want to make. Yes or no? So the moment you address this, you realize, if I overcome this fear, if I overcome these limiting beliefs, I do have the capability to become resourceful enough, just like every other human being does, to acquire the knowledge, to acquire the guidance I need, and to then make that money. So take the risk. Stop saying that you can't do it because you need to work this 9 to 5, because you've not got enough money to pay your bills, because you've got to do this, because you've got to do that. There's always a way out. Just look for it. Just look for it hard enough, and you will find it. And that's us. How long have we been going for? Bang on 30 minutes. So I'm going to end it here. It's been an absolute pleasure. And I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.